Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about The Flying Luna Clipper from 1987. And this is a winner of the Patreon movie review vote. If you would like for me to review a movie of your choice, then click on the link below and pledge, and maybe I'll be reviewing your movie next month. This movie was selected by Tyler. The Flying Luna Clipper is a really interesting film. Because it is made on an 8-bit MSX computer. It is something that made some of the first Metal Gear Solid games. It was made to make 80s video games that would play, on your Nintendo or something. This was made in Japan to go along with MSX Magazine, which was obviously about this kind of computer that you use to make 8-bit stuff. From the director and producer and writer and pretty much everything in this film, Iko Ono, who made a bunch of short films, and this was sort of a compilation / movie of them. It was, a lot of people say it was only released on Laserdisc. That seems to be how this was discovered. It was discovered by this journalist, Matt Hawkins, who uploaded to YouTube and kind of rediscovered this film, which was kind of mostly forgotten and I don't think released in America. I've heard that it was released on Video 8, Betamax, VHS, as well as Laserdisc, or at least according to Wikipedia and other articles. I'm not sure where they got that info from, but I think there's an interview with the director, which I did not listen to. I'm mainly reviewing the movie here, but it's about a bunch of kind of anthropomorphic fruits and other creatures. There's a really cool looking snowman, and they're going to go on the Flying Luna Clipper, which is a new M130 flying kind of, it's a flying seaplane basically, and they get on there and they're going to watch short films on this 200-foot screen and eventually get to their destination. It has a lot about Polynesian culture and the voyaging from there. I'm wondering if this was an influence on Moana. I'm sure it is not, but in my headcanon, why not? This is a strange movie. It's sort of like watching a cutscene from your favorite Nintendo game from when Nintendo first made it to America, or I think there was an amazing YouTube comment on the version I watched, which basically said this feels like watching your cousin play an educational computer game with the other kids in your family because Christmas is over, but you're still together for break. All the grown-ups are asleep and you can eat all the snacks you want under the Christmas lights. I really like that comment as someone who would put on movies with their friends or family members and make fun of them or make silly voices as a kid. I totally know that energy or that vibe or whatever, but this movie is kind of mostly an experience. It feels like kind of a lost thing, but what's cool about it is I think if you made this film now be this kitschy thing, you're like calling back to a former time or something. I mean, it's not really. It's a guy, Iko Ono, who made this film, like kind of liked making films off of this MSX computer and was doing illustrations for this magazine, and apparently even made a catalog and like an updated one where some of the characters meet up later. I'm a little curious if we'll ever find that sequel, but it has a different vibe than like if you did it you'd want to do video game references and all these things, and this is not really interested in that. It's interesting to using the computer and using these visual graphics that were very limited at the time, but understanding kind of how to get that to work in somewhat of a narrative. There isn't really a main character, although the snowman is cool as hell, so to me he's the main character, but it feels very much like not necessarily an American film. I would say it feels more like, Amakord or something like that, where it's like a group of people. It's sort of more about the vibe of it, of watching these short films. I hear some people say they go to various islands. This is a very weird movie, but in my mind, like most of those things were obviously short films on the journey, but maybe, this is a film that I'm sure you can have multiple interpretations of, so why not? But it seemed a little off when I kept reading that description. And there is this whole idea of like the seaplane, and like the seaplane represents like this golden or yellow bird, and like various things like that I don't know if any of this makes sense or is supposed to. I do think it is a general kind of, I guess, as we say, vibes or something like that. And some art films are sort of like that. It's just the general feeling of that time and I got that before, because I almost thought at the beginning they wouldn't even get on the Luna Clipper. I thought they would just talk about the possibility of it. And what's interesting is, as much as like if you were to make this film now with these sort of circumstances, you would want to call back to watching cutscenes and that. And because this isn't playing off of that. I mean, it's sort of the visual language, but like the idea of like what you think of when you see those sort of things. It is playing more of like a Luna Clipper, which is nostalgia. I actually, before I this was in the movie review vote, I didn't look up what it was. I thought it was like, for some reason, I thought it was an anime about World War II. I was pretty off there, but it's calling back to a nostalgic thing, and it does play like kind of a very moody kind of, it's like this was the feeling, the cultural feeling of like, how everyone viewed the world, mostly the snowman. I kind of look at him as almost the protagonist, but like the beautiful kind of sunsets to it. It does feel like a lot of wonderful kind of 8-bit pictures. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw this. Like these would look really cool on a t-shirt. It would look cool in a poster or anything like that. There's a lot of really amazing shots in this, and I think the director Iko Ono did an amazing job with this and with his designs in that, because if you think back of all those things, like, I mean, I guess they were thinking more, a lot of times, like trying to get something done under a deadline and stuff. This felt more like a kind of more auteured kind of film than you get with this technology, and that's something I really, really love about it. I mean, from like, there's one time where the ship's going in warp speed, there's kind of cool songs in the cockpit. The Polynesian thing again is like, which is also kind of strange, like why that with this I don't really understand, but that's his perspective. I think that's part of it is how this is made, but I also think, well, in that, I will say that I think when you're using an animation style, you have to have one that works with the story you're telling. You don't just randomly pick one because you're bored or whatever. And this matches the style of this animation very well. So well that it's almost feels like this is the only way this story could ever be told. It feels perfect in that, and I think that shows he's actually a really good director. He had worked on Tron a little bit before coming back to Japan to work on this, but this was actually given a release by Sony Entertainment and everything. But it's just kind of the experience of it is almost the part of it. The idea of these characters going on this plane and going to this journey through it feels like a world we don't really get to be a part of. It feels like this world where, like, what were they dreaming of, these people who were making this kind of weird magazine you'd never thought of? What were they dreaming of in those offices? What were they thinking of at the time? Were they dreaming of, Mega Man and the thing, and Super Mario and the things we think of that? Or were they going in a completely different direction? What was that? And I think that a lot of times about the past, like, what our imagined view of the past is not necessarily and obviously not what the past was. And in a sense, I think looking at this, you re-examine the past, because this feels like you're opening up a gateway, because it's this found thing. I'm a huge fan of the Langley School's Music Project album, which was found in I think like a Salvation Army kind of a vintage shop, a thrift shop, which I believe this was too. And it feels, sometimes I used to like get VHSs and I'd see like a 6-hour tape of Beavis and Butthead or something, and imagine like, what was it like making this tape and stuff. And this gives you a window into that. But I think the film itself shows people who are trying to recapture something that they imagined from World War II, the Luna Clipper, and like what that represented, and what it would be like to actually do that now, and like this imagined version of the future referenced with the past. And this is kind of interesting to look at it from the future and look at what what this artistic statement of the past was in this unique version of filmmaking. So I really like this. I thought it was kind of fascinating. I don't know if it's like my favorite movie or something I'd really rewatch. I think if you're gonna have a party and put something on, this is actually a really cool idea to do. I think people will be like, what is that? And I've said that about a lot of films, but I think this one would make you go like, what is going on? Oh, they're just playing some cutscenes from NES or something. So maybe it's actually better you play it for them. But it is a unique experience, and I think kind of shows you the possibilities you can do with even the simplest kind of basic visual structure, which this does. And I think Iko Ono does a pretty amazing job at doing that in this film, and kind of makes a bizarrely weird, unique artistic statement that you're not exactly sure maybe what he's saying with it, but I'm really glad he said it using the 8-bit MSX computer. And I'm glad to have experienced this, and I think that's what you come out doing. You're glad you went into this weird rabbit hole. I almost wish there'd be more there. There'd be more films like this at the time. Unfortunately, it sounds like there are not, but the possibility and the idea of getting to see someone's interesting, odd artistic statement that we could have lost otherwise, even though in Japan, I wonder how famous it is in Japan or how well known it is, but it to us, I guess in America, it's not, and it's an interesting view of animation and shows you kind of that filmmaking possibilities are anywhere, even in things you only dreamed that someone could make a film out of. Just, I guess, like you dream of the Luna Clipper flying off and flying again. So if you have seen the Flying Luna Clipper and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to. And this was a winner of the Patreon movie review vote. If you would like for me to review a movie of your choice, then click on the link below and pledge, and maybe I'll be reviewing your movie next month. Thank you very much for watching.